that March 6th to 8th, 1981, then brand new President Ronald Reagan was taken by his new CIA director, William Casey, to Camp David. With them were analysts from the CIA, the NSA, DIA. And this briefing boiled down to an introduction to Ronald Reagan of extraterrestrial species that William Casey was saying, sir, you need to understand that we are dealing with others on this planet.
Curiously, throughout his presidency, Ronald Reagan brought up the subject of what would happen in the case of an alien invasion, most famously in 1987, when addressing the United Nations General Assembly in New York.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Reagan was the first one who said publicly he just needs one extraterrestrial threat, and that would bring together the entire planet. So you have to ask yourself the question, did he know something?
Both in discussions with the Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev, Reagan alluded to an alien presence. And Gorbachev says he was quite taken aback when Reagan said this to him at the critically important point of pivotal arms negotiations. And suddenly Ronald Reagan starts talking about extraterrestrials.
Years later, during a symposium in New York, President Gorbachev recounted the incident.
President Reagan suddenly said to me, what would you do if the United States were attacked by someone from outer space? Would you help us? I said, no doubt about it. He said, we too. So that's interesting.
Is it possible that Ronald Reagan knew the truth about extraterrestrial activity on Earth and then kept the facts a secret for fear of creating a global panic? As far as many researchers are concerned, further evidence that President Reagan had knowledge of an alien presence can be found by examining one of his most high-profile and controversial initiatives, Star Wars. On March 23, 1983, U.S. President Ronald Reagan launches the Strategic Defense Initiative. Nicknamed Star Wars, its stated purpose is to deter a Soviet attack by basing defensive weapons in outer space.
I have approved a research program to find, if we can, a security shield that will destroy nuclear missiles before they reach their target.
Isn't it interesting that this man who had this encounter in 1974 is the man who then, less than a decade later, authorizes the Strategic Defense Initiative, also known as Star Wars?
If you pardon my speeding the film line, the Force is with us.
But was defending the United States against Soviet nuclear aggression Ronald Reagan's only motivation?
Some believe that the real purpose of the Star Wars campaign was to fight extraterrestrials. It's all about arming planet Earth so that if the extraterrestrial presence suddenly turns hostile, we have the military hardware to resist.
While Ronald Reagan's Star Wars program was dissolved in 1993, some researchers believe it set the nation on a course for taking the next crucial step towards connecting with other intelligences. Washington, D.C., January 24th, 2020. President Donald Trump reveals the official logo for the newest branch of the Armed Services, Space Force.
With my signature today, you will witness the birth of the Space Force, and that will be now officially the 6th branch of the United States Armed Forces. That is something new.
The USSF offshoot of the Air Force, was established by the Trump administration to oversee military operations beyond the Earth's atmosphere.
One of President Trump's most famous initiatives relates to the Space Force. Inevitably, the UFO community have said, well, this is about the aliens. This is almost a carbon copy of what happened under Reagan's presidency with Star Wars.
Trump's announcement that the United States is going to have a Space Force says something important about what he knows as the President of the United States. There have been disclosures since he became president that seem to suggest that his move in establishing a Space Force has merit.
Space. There'll be a lot of things happening in space. Because space is the world's newest warfighting domain.
The final push to create a Space Force came just months after 3 leaked military videos of unidentified aerial phenomena became widely circulated online.
The Navy goes in and shows Trump 3 videos that go fast and get bold and tic-tac video and basically give him the video. So what is Trump going to say? So what is it? And they had to have said, we don't know, Mr. President, we're working on it. We're working on it, we don't know, we know it's for real.
Could the formation of Space Force indicate that we are nearing the point when an American president will finally reveal to the world that aliens are among us?
The escalation of the UFO presence has stimulated the awareness of the world, driving the process forward towards announcement of confirmation, which I call disclosure. And one of the fundamental purposes of the modern era is to get the world to the point where it will confirm the presence of these extraterrestrials. Once the world has had some time to adjust to that new profound information, open contact then becomes not particularly dramatic.
In 2019 onward, I think we're not in disclosure. I think we're in confirmation. Donald Trump, as President of the United States, is admitting that we've got some of our best military pilots who are reporting UFOs, and he in the White House and the Department of Defense, they are watching what the Navy pilots are reporting.
The human race is now more ready than ever to accept the reality of extraterrestrial involvement in human affairs. And I think this is ultimately the end game of the extraterrestrial plan. And they're here to guide us, to assist us, and to help us to manifest a new future for humanity.
George Washington encountering a glowing beam. Ronald Reagan witnessing an orb of light through an airplane window. Is it possible that America's presidents have known for centuries the truth about an extraterrestrial agenda? If so, then perhaps we're on the threshold of learning not only the full history of the United States, but also the hidden facts about an alien presence right here on Earth. Traditions throughout the world. In sacred traditions throughout the world, there is a number that is considered divine. And Bible,
There's 12 tribes in Israel. There's 12 apostles for Jesus.
it is embedded in dozens of ancient structures.
The Göbekli Tepe, there are 12 stones focused around 2 huge monoliths.
And found in the latest scientific principles.
The universe is a symphony of strings, and that music is divided into 12 notes.
Is the recurrence of the number 12 merely chance? Or could it hold a clue about humanity's extraterrestrial past?
The number 12 contains within it the code of the power of God, the ancient secret of tapping into something greater and higher, something very possibly extraterrestrial.
There is a doorway in the universe. Beyond it is the promise of truth. It demands we question everything we have ever been taught. The evidence is all around us. The introduces forward-thinking concepts in theoretical physics, including the existence of dark matter and the behavior of black holes.
William James Sidis is a child prodigy, a genius, who describes in what he calls black bodies essentially the way black holes would behave. They would be invisible because they are taking in energy.
Astrophysicists have only recently begun to come to an understanding of black holes that Sidis demonstrated a century ago. But how did he come to have such extraordinary insight? Some researchers attribute Sidis' obsession with a base 12, or duodecimal, for his revolutionary thinking.
The duodecimal system is the number system based on 12 rather than 10. So instead of counting to 10, we count to 12. But we don't use the word 12. We'll say a dozen. For 13, we'll say 1 dozen 1, 1 dozen 2, 1 dozen 3.
12 seems like an organic number to us. 1, as opposed to, say, dividing our math into the 10-based metric system. When we stay with 12, it's more easily divided into more fractions that stay in round, even numbers. That's why it's beautiful on a clock hand that a quarter of an hour is an even 15, half an hour is an even 30. If it was based on tens, it would start getting wonky pretty quick and requiring decimal points behind it.
The Mesopotamians divided their year into 12 months. The ancient Hebrews took those exact months and the exact names of the months and developed the Hebrew calendar.
We also see the 12 signs of the zodiac, and they're basically associated with the 12 lunar cycles. Even in biology, we find that the human body has 12 systems, 12 meridians, 12 chakras. In science, we know that we have 12 cranial nerves. The number 12 is also very important in the planetary grid theory, where you find exactly 12 points around the globe that are called vortices that have very mysterious qualities. For example, the Bermuda Triangle or the South Atlantic Anomaly. These specific 12 points are the entry and exit points from the Earth to the rest of the cosmos. The number 12 is prevalent in many cultures and society. It is symbolic for perfection, for completion, maybe even the mastery of the human condition.
Is it possible that William Sidis' obsession with the number 12 allowed him unprecedented insight into some of the greatest mysteries of our universe? In 1976, theoretical physicist Burkhard Heim, known to many in the scientific community as the German Stephen Hawking, introduced further groundbreaking work centered on the number 12. He developed a revolutionary grand unified theory that consisted of a 12-dimensional worldview. His theory incorporates not only our material realities, but philosophical ones, such as how the universe began, the nature of consciousness, and even why we are here.
In the beginning, there was one equation which, when solved, gave us the expanding universe, the formation of galaxies, the planet Earth, people, maybe even love. We find that 3 dimensions is simply too small. You can't cram all the forces into 3 dimensions, maybe 12. But this is one of the hottest topics in all of physics.
For many outside the scientific community, the significance of the number 12 in mathematics and theoretical physics is at best a vaguely understood piece of trivia. But researchers suggest this number can be found in nearly every aspect of life, appearing in patterns that seem to repeat over and over. For example, in many ancient traditions, there exists a group of divinely appointed advisors, nearly always numbering 12.
There's a fascinating pattern of 12s. It's interesting how this number comes up again and again throughout history. But you got the Arthurian legend, the 12 Knights of the Round Table. In the Greek stories, 12 Olympians went to war with 12 Titans. In the Bible, you have 12 as being this important number. There's 12 tribes of Israel. There's 12 apostles for Jesus. In the Islamic tradition, the largest Shia sect is called the Twelvers because they have 12 imams.
So you have to wonder, what is it behind the number 12? Is it all coincidence, or could there be a higher meaning behind it?
The importance of the number 12 is reinforced in the New Testament's Book of Acts, which tells of the founding of the Christian church after the crucifixion of Jesus and after the apostle Judas took his own life.
The apostles, which were now down to 11, not quite 12 yet, had got together in Jerusalem to celebrate the Shavuot, Jewish harvest festival that occurs 50 days after the Passover. Jesus had promised them before that revelation would come to them. However, they were not yet 12. They needed a replacement for 12 before the revelation.
During this celebration, which came to be known as the Pentecost, the Apostle Matthias is chosen to replace Judas. Only then is divine contact made.
The disciples are awaiting their marching orders. They're in a home, and a violent wind comes through the house and shakes the house to its foundations, and the disciples are startled. And then fire descends from out of the sky, and these tongues of fire attach themselves to each of the disciples.
The 12 apostles gained some kind of access to special knowledge, special power, but only because they met as 12.
We find the number 12 as having ancient mystical significance. It contains within it the code of the power of God, the ancient secret of tapping into something greater and higher, something very possibly extraterrestrial.
Could it be that Jesus' 12 disciples were, in effect, wisdom keepers? Men who were entrusted with divine, perhaps even extraterrestrial secrets? And if so, does it further illustrate that there is some sort of cosmic significance to the number 12? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining some of the oldest stone structures on Earth that all feature a pattern of 12. Southeast Turkey. According to mainstream archaeologists, this ancient stone complex contains the world's oldest known megalithic structures, dating back at least 11,500 years. Prior to the discovery, the people of this time period were thought to be hunter-gatherers, and nowhere near advanced enough to achieve such an impressive feat of engineering. And as far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, just as remarkable is the fact that these ancient structures once again point to the importance of the number 12.
This is the oldest stone circle complex in the world. If we look at the most sophisticated of the stone enclosures, we find that there are 12 T-shaped stones focused around two huge gateway-like monoliths in the center. We have to ask ourselves, why 12?
Is there something to be learned from the fact that the oldest known megalithic structures on Earth incorporate the number 12? Researchers point out that the number 12 turns up at many other archaeological sites around the world.
Other ancient sites that encode number 12 include the stones of Stennes on the Orkney Islands, which dates back to at least 3,100 BC. Only a few stones still remain, but originally there were 12. We also have the 12 apostles of Ilkley Moor up in Yorkshire, where strangely many UFO sightings and strange lights have been recorded. Other sites with the number 12 include Kellanish, which is up in the Outer Hebrides. This is a remarkable megalithic construction.
presence of 12 stones in the stories of the Hebrew Bible reveals the significance of the number is not merely symbolic. In the book of Exodus, Moses erected 12 standing stones at the foot of Mount Sinai after receiving the 10 Commandments. And in the book of Joshua, after the Jordan River parted to allow the Israelites to pass, Joshua had 12 stones placed where the priests had been standing who carried the Ark of the Covenant. But perhaps the most extraordinary example can be found in the Hebrew Bible's book of Kings, when the prophet Elijah confronts the worshippers of the pagan god Baal and challenges them to provide proof of their god's existence by making a sacrificial offering.
Elijah has this bizarre life where there are these multiple episodes where he is in contact with someone up in the sky.
Elijah builds an altar with 12 stones. He puts the offering, the bull, on the altar. And of course, God, with God's divine fire, sends the fire down to burn this offering.
Why 12 stones? Was it one stone each for the 12 tribes of Israel? That's the common explanation. But is there something more? Is it that Elijah is pointing to the power of 12 and its connection with the divine light or the divine fire that he's about to call down?
Elijah, Moses, Joshua, all instructed by God to erect exactly 12 stones. But regardless of whether or not these stories reflect actual historical accounts, is there a profound message contained within this repeated pattern? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest it could reflect important knowledge our ancestors possessed about the very nature of the universe. Canton, New York, 2003. Mathematician Dr. Jeffrey Weeks and his colleagues suggest, based on analysis of maps of the Big Bang, that the universe takes the 12-sided shape of a dodecahedron.
The team of scientists headed by Jeffrey Weeks made a remarkable deduction about the universe. They believe, based on cosmic radiation data they've accrued, that the universe may in fact be a dodecahedron-shaped system, which is quite incredible. So again, we have this number 12, and we have leading scientists saying, hey, yes, this may well be the actual shape of our reality.
So this discovery shows us that from the macro level, the universe level, down to the societal level, that the number 12 seems to be the ruling mystical number of the universe.
Curiously, the idea that the universe takes the shape of a dodecahedron was also theorized by the Greek philosopher Plato more than 2,000 years earlier.
Plato describes an early image of the Earth in something called the Phaedo as a dodecahedron, that is 12 panels. This shape represents the ether, the life-sustaining life force that animates everything.
The Greeks were masters of geometry, and Plato and many of the Greeks thought that this was the key to the universe. That the universe obeyed what are called magic numbers. Magic numbers encoded in the laws of geometry, numbers which seem to be the basis of reality. Numbers created by the gods that were talking to us through numbers.
What Plato described is the view that is seen by the gods or by advanced souls who are able to escape the physical and enter into the metaphysical realm. Where did Plato get that knowledge? It's quite possible that he came into contact with some higher intelligence, maybe even extraterrestrials, that want to see us ultimately fulfill our destiny.
Is it possible that special knowledge was imparted to Plato so that future generations of humans would take notice and seek to better understand the cosmic significance of the number?